Tracy came along. I remember one of the first things, actually, when I started going over with Tracy, she was in England nursing and I was here, and she was upfront about it from day one. And one of the first letters I got, I thought was a love letter from London, but instead it was a letter with leaflets on organ failure and kidney failure, that she wanted me to know what I was getting into, which was typical of her, I suppose, But I suppose over the years I've just grown, I suppose, to be frustrated really, because it's a long time. 10 years is a long time, and it's no reflection on the transplant coordinators here or anything. It's just there aren't kidneys suitable because of the antibodies, and it's just that kind of frustration that you're waiting for it to happen. There's a kind of a guilt involved in as well, because that for Tracy to get a kidney, especially a cadaveric kidney, someone has to die for that, and on one hand you're wishing for a kidney, which means you're wishing for someone to die, so there's a kind of a moral conflict there, that you don't want to be wishing somebody's life away, so that to be selfish, that Tracy get a kidney, but so tis conflicted, I suppose, and tis frustration, and tis everything really, it's a mixture of stuff. I was tested a number of years ago, I suppose 5 or 6 years ago, around the same time as Tracy's sister Geraldine was tested. There was a few of us, my brother and sister-in-law, and Tracy's family. We all got tested around the same time. Subsequently, then Marie Louise, Tracy's other sister, got tested. But it is going to be hard enough to match Tracy anyway because of the antibodies. So it was a shot in a million. That a non-blood relative would be a match. So obviously her siblings were the possibility. But we'd be hopeful that down the road, 10 years ago there was no such thing as plasmapheresis. They're doing it now in Coventry, where they remove some of the antibodies, and it's kind of like forcing a kidney that wouldn't normally be a match to be a match, So it's you'd be hoping that maybe in 10 years or 5 or 10 years, I know you're still waiting, but maybe at the way medicine is advancing, that there is a possibility that down the road, maybe the next kidney or the next transplant for Tracy, I mightn't be a match, but we're still relatively young, so I'm hoping I'd be able to give her one of mine before I kick the bucket. It's the fact that you're powerless, you feel helpless, there's nothing worse than seeing her in the morning or seeing her coming in late at night, blood pressure's low, and she's staggering trying to come up the stairs, falling into bed, getting sick, and you can do nothing about it, and it's just that kind of sense of helplessness, and you're the man in the relationship, and you should be the one to take care of your wife, and there's nothing you can do really, only just be support and be there for her whatever way you can, and the night that she's sick, I'd go in and pick her up, not to be in a taxi. You just do things like that, and try and make things as comfortable for her that she's not under pressure outside of that. She's enough on her plate with work and dialysis, and you just try and make sure that after that you can do as much as you can, but that's it, to totally demoralising at times, just watching her going through it, I suppose it's not ideal, obviously. As soon as Tracy comes off the dialysis machine, her body starts building up toxins again. So if you're a fetus in a womb, it's not a very good environment. It's fairly hostile for a development of a fetus. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. You can still ovulate and you can still conceive, but it wouldn't be recommended by the nephrologist or the gynecologist, I'm sure. But if it happens, it's something that can be dealt with, and there are ways, with more extreme dialysis, maybe 6 days a week instead of 3, where you keep the levels in the body, at a more normal level, so that instead of having 3 days for toxins to build up, they're removed every day, and it just makes it a better environment for a fetus to try and develop. But it's not something you'll be planning, and there are options maybe for adoption or stuff like that, but with regards to having kids of your own, it's not ideal really. It's unbelievable really, what they do, because they really make such a difference to people's lives, when they're at their lowest, and when their health is at their worst, and these people are really terminal, I suppose, because if they don't get transplants, they're terminal, really, and it's the same as people dealing with cancer patients or whatever, the compassion they show, if you go in there to Cork to Mr. Liam Plant and his team, they're just unbelievable. The nurses inside in the dialysis ward, they couldn't do enough for you. You know, we'd often have to go in if Trace's blood pressure was low, or if she had to get maybe in between sessions, she might have to go back in for more dialysis if the fluid levels are up or whatever. And you know, they can't do enough for you really, like. And going up to Dublin then as well to Dr. Hickey, Mr. Hickey, and the transplant team in Dublin, like, are unbelievable. Like Nadine and Phyllis, the coordinators. Anytime you want to talk to them about anything, you know, they're on the phone, you know, and that they're always there. And it's just, I suppose, knowing, tis a kind of a comfort knowing that they're there, you know. And like, even I just saw there recently, actually, like, you know, they probably don't get enough credit, like, for what they do with limited resources, like, you know. And I think Ireland, you know, actually third on lung transplant lists in Europe, you know, from being bottom of the list probably 10 or 15 years ago. We're now third in Europe, you know, and that's a fierce leap, like, you know, in the short space of time, and it's all down to that to that team, and that group in Dublin and in the regional centres as well, you know. And they really should get a lot of credit, you know, and people outside of the circle don't really know what they do. I mean, like, David Hickey is known as a footballer, but like, I wouldn't think of him as a footballer anymore, you know. He's the man that changes people's lives in Dublin, you know. Like, half our week is gone anyway to start with, you know. Monday, Wednesday and Fridays are washout, so you're only hoping that Tracy is going to be good at the weekends, or that her blood pressure won't be too low on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, because they're kind of our evenings where you could do something. You could go for a meal after work or something, which we tend to make maybe more use of the time when we can, because, you know, as I said, half the week is gone. So like, the last thing you want to do is just lie in bed on a Tuesday evening when you could be tired. You know, it'd be nice to get out and do something. And the weekends are always a time where you know, we love spending it in Cork, because, you know, you can just do your own thing and get out and go to the cinema or do something, you know. And we try as much as possible to do things on those days. But like, you know, as I say, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I drop off Tracy at work at 7:45, and she comes back in the door after midnight the following morning, you know. So, you know, I'd be in bed probably at that stage. I'd be awake obviously when she comes in, but, you know, tis just for the few minutes, and then the few minutes in the car in the morning again on the way to work. So basically the rest of the day is gone, you know, and you're kind of losing half the time with your partner, like, you know, which is, but that's it. I mean, it's amazing what people take as normal, and I suppose after 10 years together, we know that side of our relationship more than we'd had before, because we only had a couple of years where things were normal, you know, like normal people have it. So for the bulk of our time together, like, this is what we've known. So it's kind of, that's the way it is, and, you know, you just take it for granted and you move on, you know. Well, I think, you know, everyone has to just, there's plenty of information out there. The Irish Kidney Association, whatever, any website you go on to, there's plenty scope for getting information. I think the fact that it's next of kin as well, I think that families should sit down, like, and talk about it. You know, you prepare for life after death with a will, and people know what you want to do with the dog or the cat, like, you know, they know what you want to do with your car when you die, your house, your money. But like, I think it's just as fundamental that people should say, fine, maybe I want to donate my kidneys and my lungs, but I don't want to donate my eyes, you know, because people might have you know, they might have a reason for it or whatever. But I think every family should sit down together, whether it's like some day or night during organ donation week, that there's a kind of a campaign that families have a chat, or whatever you want to call it, you know, just to sit down together, go through it, let all the adults in the house just say, this is what I want to do, you know, and then the next of kin then have the responsibility to see those wishes through, you know. And I think if they knew for certain that this is what the person wants, I mean, it removes an awful burden when they're making that decision, you know, when the doctor or whatever approaches them and says, right, you know, there's nothing that can be done for your son or your daughter or your brother or sister, but like, do you know if they had any wishes, you know, about organ donation? We do. He wanted to donate it, you know, and they don't have the choice. They don't have the decision to make, because they're all aware this is what he wanted to do, and it kind of removes any maybe guilt that they might have, you know, or any doubt that they might have in their mind. So I would advise all families to have a chat, and that they'd know that, because nobody wants to think, fine, in 6 months' time it could be on a life support machine and they're about to pull the plug, you know. But it happens every day of the week in every hospital in Ireland, and families that never thought was going to happen, they experience it, you know. So I think, you know, be prepared and let everyone have the chat and know this is what I want, you know, and I think it would really remove a lot of the problems when it comes to making the decision. I suppose to just for people to be aware, like that it is a huge gift. Like it's the gift of life, and it's not just life; it's the quality of life. You can be living, but you might as well be dead. Like at times, there's people that have no life. Like they're just going from hospital to beds, and they're sick. And Trace is not the worst of them. Like there's people and waiting for lung transplants and heart transplants. Like cystic fibrosis sufferers must go through, severe pain. Like, and their quality of life is far worse than what a lot of kidney sufferers would be. Because they can't do anything without getting tired. And they're attached to oxygen all day, every day. Like, and so what they're going through like must be unbearable. And everyone that's waiting for an organ. So like it would be the gift of life. And I've heard somewhere there lately like that for people that are thinking of donating organs, and that there could be a bit of resentment that they're giving an organ to a complete stranger to give them the gift of life. They should look at it the other way around, that a complete stranger is giving the organ of their loved one life, and instead of the person dying, their life continues in some small way in the stranger's body, but at least there's some solace to know that they're out there and that their part of them is still living on, and I think people should take heart from that.